This top costs 1,150 euros. A cotton top that is basically constructed out of simple rectangles. I say we make it ourselves for a fraction of this price. Hello, welcome back or welcome. If you're new here, my name is Aniela and I make videos about sewing, knitting and crochet. In today's video we are sewing this Chloe inspired top. It's a very cute summer top. We have the thick bow ties at the shoulders, we have the yoke and the bottom ruffle. Also, a key detail here is that we have front buttons and a little slit in the middle. We are going to recreate all that using only our bust circumference. So this is the one measurement you have to take, and the rest is given to you right here. This is the pattern I have created. You can go ahead and screenshot it. Note down your bust circumference, so the circumference of the widest part of your chest, and calculate the length of your panels where it is indicated. And that's basically it. We're going to do two small adjustments, but I will explain it later in the video. And for our fabric, I recommend using a natural material like cotton or linen. The best choice would be a lightweight fabric. And if you want to recreate this a little bit retro, soft vibe that Chloe have, I say you go to the thrift store, you pick the most granny looking floral pattern, and this is the perfect choice. I wasn't fortunate enough to find one, but I already had some leftovers of this striped cotton fabric. So this is what I will be working with. And for the rest of the materials, you will of course need some basic sewing tools like thread, needle, sewing machine, measuring tape, chalk, pins, scissors. And what's great about this project is that you don't actually need an overlocker. The only seam that would be visible is the side seam of the ruffle, and I did a French seam there. You will also need some kind of loops for the buttons. I am using this elastic trim, but ideally the loops should be elastic and the trim should be firm, but that's just what I had on hand, so I'm gonna work with that. Next, you will need some small piece of bias tape. You can again either do it by yourself or use one that is pre-made. And lastly, you will need 4 buttons. And now, without further ado, let's get sewing. Before we start, let's take a look at all the pieces cut. We have 2 front yoke pieces, mirrored, and 1 back yoke. These are cut twice for the main fabric and lining. The bottom ruffle for front and back, they are exactly the same. 4 long strips for the bow ties, and lastly the small piece of bias tape. First, let's work on the straps. So take your strap and fold it lengthwise, right sides together. Then fold one end like so to create a diagonal line and cut along the crease. Now sew along this edge with a 1 cm seam allowance. Remember to backstitch at the beginning and the end. And here where you reach the corner, stop with your needle down, lift the presser foot and shift the material to stitch straight again. Trim the corners. Turn the tie to the right side and carefully push out and shape the corners with any pointed tool. I'm using a pencil. Then press and repeat the steps for the other ties and leave them for now. Let's move on to the yoke of the top. First, shape the neckline. So from the top of the center line, measure 1 centimeter down and 9 to the side. Connect these points and cut. Now take the back yoke piece and match the fronts to the back right sides together. Repeat for the lining and stitch all the sides. Press the seams open and next place the ties along the top edge of the yoke like so. You can use my measurements as reference, but I suggest you to try it on yourself and place the ties to your liking. Take the other yoke piece and place it on top, right side to right side, sandwiching the ties in between the yokes, and stitch along this top edge. For the next step, stitch along the seam on the right side of the lining. So here's my main side and here's my lining. I'm going to top stitch along this side about 1-2 millimeters away from the seam, making sure to catch the seam allowance underneath. Now it's time to place our bottom loops. So first baste the loops onto the right front piece, right sides together. The loops should be facing the side of the top. Then fold the front like so, matching the pieces along the center front line. Pin and stitch with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Repeat for the other side of the top. Turn the pieces right side out and press. Now mark the bottom placements. And stitch all 4 bottoms by hand. Now we move to the bottom ruffle. Match the pieces along the side edges, wrong sides together first because we are doing French seams. Press the seam allowance open. Then trim away the excess, turn the piece over, so this time right sides together. Press and stitch the sides again to create a French seam. Pre-press the top edge by 1.5 centimeter, and now we will focus on the front slit. Find the middle of the front and mark it. Measure 6 centimeters down and mark. Then cut this length open. Take your bias tape and pin it to the slit edge. Sew with a 1/2 centimeter seam allowance. This part is a little bit tricky, so just take your time. If you struggle with this step, I will link a very clear tutorial on how to sew these slits. I hope that helps. After sewing, trim the bias tape ends and fold it twice by 1/2 centimeter, hiding all seams inside, and pin. Stitch again on the right side of the bias tape, 1 millimeter away from the seam. Now match the slit edges right sides together. This will create this small piece of bias tape at the back, so backstitch here a few times. Okay, we are done with the hardest part of this project in my opinion, and there are just 2 more steps. So first, sew the bottom ruffle to the yoke. To do so, we have to ruffle the material, so stitch 2 basting lines along the top edge, one 1/2 centimeter away from the edge and the second one 1 centimeter away from the first one. The folded raw edge should be in between the 2 basting lines. Then attach the ruffle piece to the yoke piece, and this is important. Pin wrong side to wrong side first. Align the yoke edge with the raw edge of the folded top, and first pin the sides and center front and back. Then gently pull on both threads of basting stitches at the same time to create even gathers. And gather the fabric until it is the same length as the yoke and pin. Take the top to the sewing machine and stitch the ruffle in place, sewing very close to the yoke edge. Then trim the seam allowance of the yoke and flip the ruffle to the top like so. Press and stitch in the middle right here, so about 1/2 centimeter away from our previous seam. And this will encase all the raw edges inside. Now you can remove the 2 lines of basting stitches, and time for our final step, which is hemming the top. Fold the bottom edge of the ruffle twice by 1/2 centimeter and stitch close to the folded edge. Give your top one final press and your new Chloe inspired top is finished. I really hope you love this top as much as I do. If you try to recreate it, let me know how it went. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. Thank you for all your support, and I hope to see you next time.